Hey everyone, Alex here. Got some really cool vinyl to share with you in this update. I went to a record show the Sunday before last, and um, found some super cool stuff there. Definitely should have gone with more of a budget. I went with a loose budget, but I didn't really stick to it that well. That's the way it goes. That's just something I need to improve on, I guess we'll say. Um, I did get some other cool records before I went to the record show, so I will show you those first. First record we got here is San Francisco's Shiver. This was just reissued, I think about a month ago, not even. A couple weeks ago, they started shipping these out. Label called Unique Records from Spain reissued this. What this is it's a compilation of this. I guess you'd call them heavy psych, but it's a little more hard rock than heavy psych. Group out of San Francisco who just kind of played around at the local biker scene. They were kind of hard edged. If you read the liner notes in here, the singer they initially had, who was not on these recordings, had a metal hook for a hand and would just go around and, threaten people if they messed with the band or whatever. This was never released. It was recorded in 1972, but it wasn't released until I think 2000. There was a label that put it out, and the CD version has some bonus tracks, which I wish would have been included on this repress. But, it is what it is. It's a really cool listen. I like the vocals. They're very, very gruff sounding. Almost sounds like Blue Cheer in a way, but almost like not heavier, but rougher around the edges is how I would describe how this sounds. This next one here I'm just going to show quick. This is Riot's second album, Narita. I am a really big fan of the Guy Speranza era Riot, the first three Riot albums. After that, I don't really know any of the Rhett Forrester era Riot, and then when they started Riot 5, I don't know anything about that era of the band except that Mark Reale was the guitarist. This is a really nice copy. It's in the shrink. That's why it's so glary, because it's in the shrink. I've had Fire Down Under for about a year and a half now. Love that album. This album is pretty good. I don't think it's quite on the same level as Fire Down Under, but still a cool listen. Still some good tracks on here, like Road Racing. What else is really good down here? Kick Down the Wall, Waiting for the Taking. There are some classics on here, and just look at that album cover. I mean, doesn't Riot always have the greatest album covers with the mighty Tior or Tior or however you say that seal's name? This record here I bought off of Facebook. Living Colour's second record, Time's Up. A big fan of the first Living Colour record, Vivid. That's the one with Cult of Personality on it. This album is a little bit more diverse stylistically. There are some crazy guest artists on here. Queen Latifah's on here, Little Richard's on here, people you would not expect to be guesting on a metal album. Really, really cool tracks on here. This is the US pressing on the yellow wax, which is really cool. Really, really cool record. A lot of different musical influences coming through here. Definitely would recommend this. This album has an interesting story. I was really stoked to get this. I found it for a really, really good price on Facebook, way under what they're selling for. It was a sealed copy until I opened it. This is the anniversary pressing of Kiss Alive 3. Anyone who knows Kiss vinyl knows original pressings of Kiss Alive 3, not the most common. These anniversary pressings sealed were selling for about $100. I paid considerably less than that, and once I opened it up, I was glad I paid considerably less, because these pressings had a known issue, which I did not know about at the time I bought it, where, so Alive 3 is a double album, right? An issue that a lot of people were having is they would open it up and there would be 2 of the first LP or 2 of the second LP. I did not know that when I bought this sealed copy, and sure enough, I opened it up, 2 copies of the second LP in there. So that sucked. I was pretty bummed about that. I mean, still, nice to have, but I guess I'm going to have to try and track down somebody that's got 2 of the first LP inside their copy and see if I can make a trade or something, because I don't really know what else I'm going to do here. People on the Kiss vinyl pages say that, you can contact Epic Rights, the Universal PR department or whatever, and they can send you the vinyl that you need. But since I'm not the original buyer of this album, I think I might be out of luck on that. Might give it a try anyway just to see what they say. But yeah, that was a story of a good score turning into not a very good score. And I'm sorry about the glare, guys. I'm trying to do my best to not get the glare on there. So the record show, now we'll get on to the stuff I got there. Starting off with a couple CDs. This is T2. It'll all work out in Boomland. And guys, I am so sorry about the glare. I'm trying to avoid the glare so you can see the artwork there. This album is part of the kind of, more underground, late 60s, early 70s, heavy psych, hard rock, proto-metal, prog scene. I kind of lump those all in together. One of my favorite types of music, that era, the more underground stuff, This is a British band, super young guys. I want to say that the guitarist was like 17 or 18 when they made this album. It's only 3 tracks, although this version has some bonus tracks that were performed live, I believe. And it's just like super good, like early prog. There's horns on some of the tracks, just real long songs, real elaborate structures. This is a really, really cool listen. And then I also got another CD, which I would love to own on vinyl at some point. Lillian X, Psychoschizophrenia. This is a classic example of a hair group that in the early 90s, got real heavy and tried to kind of fit in with the popular music of the time. I want to say this is Lillian X's 4th record. And Lillian X is one of the more unique hair and glam bands, I think. They've just always kind of had a unique sound to them. And this album is super heavy, whether it be thematically or musically or both. Just a super cool record that I wanted to pick up a physical copy of. The glare, guys. Look. There I am. You can see me in the CD. Huh. Maybe if I hold it up high. There we go. That's a little bit better. All right. So some of these records I'm going to go through just really quickly here because they're not super special. They're just ones that I got to kind of fill holes in my collection. So here's some of the records that, still good pickups, but they're just not quite on that level of some of these other ones. Here's a copy of Signals by Rush. This is in the shrink. It's got the hype sticker, which I'll try and show you here. Talking about the big singles on that album. Cool record. Been meaning to get a copy for some time. This is a copy of Abraxas by Santana. This has the poster. It's super clean. You know, again, nothing too crazy, but I got a really good deal on this, and the poster is like in beautiful shape, and so is the record and the vinyl. So that was a cool pickup too. Another copy that is in the shrink, Mob Rules. Finally got a copy of Mob Rules. This is the only Sabbath album that I was missing between the self-titled and Born Again. So I finally got Mob Rules, just because they sell for a little bit more typically than what I'd be willing to pay. I like Mob Rules, but I don't think it's as good as Heaven and Hell or even Born Again, personally. I know I'm probably gonna come under lots of fire in the comments for thinking that Born Again is better than this, but you know, that's just what it is. This is one of my favorite, I don't even know what you would call this. Some people call it power violence, you know, just punk, whatever. Nails, Abandon All Life. Super heavy record, you know, just 17 minutes of bludgeon. Like, these guys are so heavy and brutal, and, you know, just very intense music. Good workout music, for sure. And I've had this on CD for some time. Found this on vinyl, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know they released this on vinyl. So picked up a copy of that. Here is a UK pressing, because I think these were only released in Europe. Wasp, Animal, Beep Like a Beast. Look at that album cover. Goodness gracious. No wonder this made it onto the Filthy 15, eh? Yeah. So, obviously, this track was supposed to be on Wasp's first album, and the record label was like, nope, that's not happening. So they released it as a single in some markets. This was a cool little find. Been kind of looking for this off and on for a while. And then, probably the last of the more common albums, but guys, it has been such an undertaking for me to find a complete copy of the Gene Simmons solo album. I'm a big Kiss collector. I've got a few videos up on my channel of some of the albums in my Kiss collection. For the past, I don't even know how long it's been. Probably, I think I started collecting about 10, 11 years ago. I have never one time in person found a copy of the Gene Simmons solo album with the poster in the order form. I found a copy with the order form a few months back, but I've never found one with the poster until I went to this record show. So now I finally have complete copies of all of the Kiss solo albums. The jacket on this one is not in the greatest shape. There's a little bit of some ungluing going on here at the top, which you can see. So I might end up Frankensteining this, and depending on how good the album plays, I might swap it out with one of my rattier copies where the vinyl is better, if that makes any sense. And that way I'll have a nice, clean, complete copy of the Gene Simmons solo album. It's been so long, like such an undertaking. I can't believe that it's been so difficult, because I'm sorry guys, the Gene Simmons solo album is like probably the worst. Yeah, it's a toss-up between this one and the Peter one. I think Ace is the best, and Paul is very securely the second best. I kind of go back and forth between Gene and Peter for third place. So I can't believe, you know, I figured Ace would be the one that's the toughest, but I think Ace's I had complete second out of all of them. I think it went Peter, Ace, Paul, and then this one. So you guys have no idea. For, you know, there's millions of copies of the Gene Simmons solo album out there, but I finally have one with the poster and the order form. I'm so stoked, guys. You have no idea. So now we get into the even cooler ones here. This album I bought from the same guy that was selling the T2 CD. I've had a copy of their first album for some time now, probably 4 years or so, but I've never found a copy of their second record. Their second record is tougher to find for some reason. Mount Rushmore, 69. Got a hype sticker of some sort on there. Talking about how this record can be played on all stereo players. This copy is in the shrink. Another copy I got that's in the shrink. I actually heard some of the, and again, it's in the shrink, so it's super shiny. I'm sorry for the glare, guys. So this is an album where a group, I should say, where I heard this record first. I heard some of the songs off of here. And then I kind of found the first one, High on Mount Rushmore, as a fluke. So I bought that first, and then I've been looking for a copy of the second one ever since then. So, you know, not a big dollar record, but just not one that you come across very often. So I was super stoked to get this, you know, being in the shrink. It's in great shape. And yeah, I think this one is a little heavier than their first album as well. So that's cool with me. This is Atomic Rooster's very first album. And I don't know if I can show the entire cover here. I mean, it's a drawing, it's a painting, so I feel like it's okay. But I guess if this video gets taken down or flagged, then I'll know that it wasn't okay. Atomic Rooster's first record. A lot of people, I feel like, don't know that Atomic Rooster had an album before Death Walks Behind You. Because Death Walks Behind You is the one everyone knows. You know, it's the big prog masterpiece, and I love it. I love Death Walks Behind You. This is a cool record. This is the first UK pressing, and there's a little bit of a story with the versions here. So this is the first version, and Atomic Rooster's first lineup did not have a guitarist. It was Vincent Crane on organ and Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer on drums, and then a guy named Nick Graham on bass and vocals. So what happened is this album got released, but it did not get released in the United States and probably some other markets as well. So when John Ducan joined the band, which was before Death Walks Behind You, obviously, there were 3 tracks that they overdubbed guitar on and took out Nick Graham's vocals and had John Ducan sing in place of him. Friday the 13th was one of them, and I can't remember what the other 2 were off the top of my head. The funny thing is, they did that, and it was planned for a U.S. release, but the U.S. release never happened. So these are pretty tough to come by here. I got a smoking deal on this because this is just, it's in fantastic shape. I don't believe the sleeve is original, but that's okay because I'm just happy to have a copy. And it's definitely the first pressing because it doesn't have any of the guitar overdubs on it. That's how you can kind of tell what pressing you have, is if it's got the guitar on it, and you'll be able to tell if it does. It's a pretty noticeable difference. If it's got that guitar on it, it's a subsequent pressing. But this one is not. This is an initial pressing. Definitely not quite on the same level as Death Walks Behind You, I would say. But this is really, really cool. It's almost jazzier. I think the lack of having an electric guitar gives it that jazzier feel. This is another big, big want crossed off my list. I can't believe I finally found a copy of this. This is Kiss, Creatures of the Night. Now, I know some of you are thinking, wait a minute, Alex. Creatures of the Night was released, that's the last album from the Makeup era. Well, yes, it is. In 1985, they decided to reissue Creatures of the Night with this cover, which it's funny because obviously Ace on the original cover did not play on Creatures of the Night, but Bruce Kulick also did not play on Creatures of the Night. So they have officially released 2 different covers, and neither one of them has a guitarist that played on the album. I also think it's funny that they, you know, if they're going based off of the original layout, really, Paul should be right here and Bruce should be over here because that's where Ace was on the original cover. Yeah, so, and then the back cover's different too. the back cover on the makeup edition is like a thunderstorm. This one, it's a booty. Couple other differences on this release. The songs Creatures of the Night, War Machine, and I Love It Loud are remixed for this. I can't really tell a difference on I Love It Loud. I can tell a difference on the other two, especially Creatures of the Night. The mix for Creatures of the Night is very obviously a different mix. They also switched Saint and Sinner and Killer. So Killer is the second track on this pressing, and Saint and Sinner is track number 8 instead of track number 2. Not really sure why they did that, because I think Killer is definitely a better track 8 and Saint and Sinner is definitely a better track 2, but what do I know? That's just what they decided to do. So yeah, been after this for a while. These have really gone up in price as of the past few years, so I'm glad I was able to finally track one down. Not the most pristine copy, but it plays really well, and I'm just happy to have a copy. So the last two are the big ones. I'm going to share this one first. It's a Glam record. I did go looking for Glam initially, and I guess you could call Kiss Glam. They had a copy of Steelheart's first album there, which was more than I'd like to pay. Plus, from what I've heard so far, I'm not super into that record. But I did get this. Heaven's Edge, self-titled, from 1990. This is a really, really cool record. This is another classic example of, if this album would have come out in 1985 instead of 1990, I think the band would have been much bigger. I think this only made it up to like, I could be wrong here. I'm remembering two different numbers. I'm remembering the number 130 and the number 55. But didn't climb very high on the charts. Lot of really cool songs on here with some powerful vocals and hooks and choruses. Lots of great guitar playing on this record. And this is another example of one of those bands that in the very late stages of hair and glam had one really killer record. And they've released other records besides this. Admittedly, I've never heard any of them. But this album, I've gotten into over the past couple months, and I didn't go into the record show expecting to find it, obviously, but it's one that you don't see every day. Again, this copy is not in the most pristine condition, but it's in pretty good shape, and it plays really nicely. I got this from the same seller that I got the Creatures of the Night from, and I'm guessing they probably came out of the same collection. Now, the last record is my favorite pickup of the whole day. I went into that show looking for 3 records. Jaco Pastorius, self-titled, from 76. Riot's first album, Rock City. And I Am What I Am by Ruth Copeland. I found one of those records, and it was Ruth Copeland, I Am What I Am. Now, some of you are confused because, this isn't the correct album cover. Well, this album was originally released as a unipack, which it's kind of like a gatefold, and it opens up, and then you slide the record out from in here. The outside portions of the unipack were evidently torn off, but I don't even care because this has become kind of a high dollar record, and I got this for a smoking deal. It plays amazingly. And this record, ever since I've heard it, I've been looking for a copy. If you listen to any of the records from today's video, please listen to this one. This record is killer from start to finish. Ruth Copeland's voice is just she's got a powerhouse voice. It's mind-blowing listening to her sing. And the other cool thing about this record is it's literally funkadelic with a female singer. The musicians on this record are the same musicians that played on the first 3 funkadelic records, except for the rhythm guitarist. Blanking on his name here. There's Eddie Hazel, Billy Nelson, Tiki Fullwood, Tal Ross. Tal Ross is not on this album, but the rest of them are. Tiki Fullwood, Bernie Worrell, Eddie Hazel, and Billy Bass Nelson. They play the instrumentals on this record. And, I mean, if you've never heard Eddie Hazel play guitar, it's just freaking amazing. It makes me speechless how much I love this record. Like, it's just so good, guys, from start to finish. Smoking guitar, smoking vocals, just really powerful songs the whole way through. So I cannot recommend this album enough. Go check it out. And I'm super stoked to have a copy of this on vinyl. So there it is. Thanks for listening to me ramble about some of the cool records that I picked up. I've got a couple more that are on the way, and hopefully be able to go to another record show at some point soon here. I think there's one coming up at the same place in November, and then we'll see what the list has for Black Friday for Record Store Day this year. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Feel free to like and subscribe if you would, and hopefully you have some good listening material here to check out. All right, thanks guys.